I'm a doctor, and my girlfriend came into my emergency room with her lover. I had to save the life of the man who was sleeping with her. The fluorescent lights of the Metropolitan Hospital's emergency room have a buzz. It is a sound that most people do not even register, but for me, Dr. Mateo Vargas, it is the soundtrack of my life. It is 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, which means the weekend night hell is over, but the randomness of the early morning is in full swing. My 36-hour shift was entering its final stretch, and caffeine was no longer working. It was just keeping my eyes open through sheer stubbornness. Dr. Vargas, Elena, my head nurse, called to me, a woman who had seen more trauma than an infantry battalion and had the calm of a Buddhist monk. Bed 3, abdominal pain, probable appendicitis. Bed 4, alcohol intoxication, GCS of 14. And bed 6. Well, it is Mr. Anderson again, swearing he swallowed his car keys. I sighed, rubbing the bridge of my nose. Get Mr. Anderson an X-ray. And let's start the appendicitis protocol on 3. I will take care of the drunk. It was the routine, the controlled chaos. As I walked to bed 4, my phone vibrated in my lab coat pocket. A reflex. I pulled it out. It was a calendar reminder. Anniversary, 5 years. Dinner at La Pergola, 8 p.m. It was tomorrow. No, technically it was today. A pang of guilt hit me, stronger than the smell of cheap alcohol emanating from my patient. 5 years with Isabel. I had spent the last 2 weeks sleeping at the hospital more than in our apartment. Isabel, I mumbled. I took out the phone again, opening our chat. My last message, sent 6 hours ago, getting out of surgery. Long night. How are you doing with the project? I love you. No reply. Her last message, from yesterday afternoon. Good luck, my love. The project is intense. The new partner, Daniel, is a machine, but very demanding. I will have to stay late at the office. Do not wait up for me. I love you more. I smiled weakly. Isabel was the most brilliant lawyer I knew. Ambitious, beautiful, and somehow she put up with my impossible schedule. Daniel. She had mentioned that guy a lot lately, a new partner at the firm who came from Chicago. Well, as long as he helped her close the deal that would make her a senior partner, I was not complaining. Doctor, are you okay? Asked the patient in bed 4, his voice slurred. I'm fine. I lied, putting the phone away. You, on the other hand, have had a busy night. Let's see those pupils. The next 2 hours were a blur of sutures, prescriptions, and the metallic sound of instrument trays. Mr. Anderson miraculously had indeed swallowed his keys. The appendicitis turned out to be gas. The early morning was a sea of minor ailments. I slumped into a chair at the nurse's station, closing my eyes for a second. I thought about Isabel at the anniversary dinner. I had the ring in my locker. 5 years. It was time. I was going to propose. I just needed to survive this shift, sleep for 4 hours, and become a functional human being. I imagined her face, her honey-colored eyes, her laugh that filled the room. Lately, she had been distant. It is the stress from work, she had told me. This case is my life right now, Mateo. And I understood her. My job was my life too. Maybe that is why we worked. Or maybe, a dark voice in my head whispered, that is why we were drifting apart. I shook my head, dispelling the fatigue and paranoia. Then it rang. Not a normal phone, the red phone, the one that connected directly with the ambulances, the one that never brought good news. Elena picked it up before the second ring. Her face, normally serene, tensed up. Understood, she said, her voice firm. Trauma 1 and 2 activated. Team ready. Estimated time, 3 minutes. She hung up and looked at me. Traffic accident. Multiple rollovers. On the scenic drive. 2 victims. A man, a woman, both in their 30s. Unconscious, high energy. I jumped to my feet. The fatigue evaporated, replaced by the liquid ice of adrenaline. Prep trauma 1 and 2. I want 2 large bore IVs, warm fluids, intubation trays, and the fast scanner. Now, the team moved like a single organism. The The scenic drive, I thought. It was a strange place for an accident at 4 a.m. It was a winding, dark road known for being a lover's lane. The automatic doors of the ambulance bay opened with a pneumatic hiss, letting in the cold night air and the flash of red and blue lights. "Here we go," Elena yelled. The paramedics rushed in. Female patient, 30 years old. Passenger, GCS of 7, BP 90 over 50 and dropping. Heart rate 130, saturating at 88% on a mask. They pushed the gurney into Trauma 1. My bay. I approached, my hands already covered in latex gloves. I saw the neck brace, the blood on her forehead, the matted brown hair, and I stopped. The world went silent. The buzz of the fluorescent lights turned into a deafening roar. No, it could not be. I leaned closer, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. The brown hair, the small crescent-shaped scar just below her left eyebrow, where she had fallen off a swing as a child. The mole next to her lip. It was Isabel. Mateo? Dr. Vargas? Elena's voice sounded miles away. I was paralyzed. My brain split in two. Mateo, the boyfriend, the man who had a ring in his locker, started to drown, to scream in a deaf void. Dr. Vargas, the trauma doctor, stepped forward, his eyes cold and analytical. "She's desaturating," I yelled, my voice sounding strange, metallic. "Intubation set up, Elena. The fast. Right now, I want to know if she has free fluid in her abdomen." My team, oblivious to the neutron bomb that had just detonated in my chest, obeyed instantly. "The second victim is coming in now," another paramedic shouted. Male, 30s, driver. Steering wheel impact, GCS of 6, severely hypotensive, probable thoracic trauma. They took him to Trauma 2. Across the room, Dr. Ramirez, the surgery resident, ran to him. I could not look away from Isabel. Her clothes were torn. She was wearing a black silk dress, not clothes for staying late at the office, and a faint smell under the blood and metal. A perfume I did not know on her. And something else. A man's cologne, one that was not mine. Do not think. Work. I tore the rest of the dress and blouse to expose her chest and abdomen. My hands were shaking, but not from fatigue, from fury, from panic. "Ultrasound probe," I ordered. Elena passed it to me. I slid it over her abdomen. Morrison's pouch, spinorenal, pelvis. My eyes scanned the screen, looking for the telltale black of blood. Fast positive. "She has free fluid in her abdomen," I said, my voice an iceberg. "She needs a surgeon and an oar." "Now, Elena," called Dr. Chun, general surgery and neurosurgery for the low GCS. As I intubated the woman I loved, passing the tube through her vocal cords, my eyes filled with tears. I blinked them away furiously. They were not tears of sadness. They were of a betrayal so deep it burned. The project. The demanding partner. "Dr. Vargas," Ramirez yelled from Trauma 2. "The patient is in severe hypovolemic shock, abdomen like a board, and an unstable chest. I think he has a massive hemothorax. Put in a chest tube, Ramirez. Do not wait for the x-ray. Do it now." I barked without moving from Isabel's side. "Doctor, I need help. He is very agitated." "I can't." I cursed under my breath. "Elena, keep her stable. Keep the fluids going. I'm coming." I ran the 10 feet that separated my personal hell from my professional hell. Trauma 2. The man on the gurney was writhing. He was pale as a ghost and covered in a cold sweat. He had a massive laceration on his scalp that was bleeding profusely. Ramirez, young and nervous, was struggling to find a vein. "Move." I pushed him aside, not gently. I grabbed the intraosseous access kit and drilled into his tibia bone, a direct access to the bone marrow. "Connect the pressure fluids here. Now." As the resident obeyed, my gaze focused on the patient's face. It was swollen, bruised, but under the blood, I recognized him. Of course I did. Isabel had shown me a picture last week. "The new team," she had said, pointing to a tall guy with an arrogant smile and perfectly coiffed blonde hair. Daniel, the partner, the work machine. They were together on the scenic drive. At 4 in the morning, he was driving. She was a passenger in the silk dress I did not know. The ultrasound probe I had used on Isabel was still in my hand. I pressed it against Daniel's chest so hard that Ramirez winced. The screen showed a collapsed lung and a sea of blood. Massive hemothorax. Just as you thought. I told Ramirez, my voice dead. Chest tube tray. And bring the ultrasound back. I'm going to check his abdomen. I slid the transducer over his belly. More blood, much more than Isabel. His liver or spleen was in shreds. He's bleeding to death, I murmured. A part of me, a dark, reptilian, primitive part, whispered, leave him. Just wait a little. No one will know. He was too critical. I felt myself choking on the venom of that thought. I saw my own hands, stained with his blood, shaking. Ramirez, I yelled, and the resident jumped. Prepare the massive transfusion protocol. I want 6 units of O-negative here a minute ago, and call Dr. Chen again. Tell him he has 2 patients for the OR, and this one goes first. He is dying faster. I spun on my heels and went back to Trauma 1. Isabel. Her vital signs were barely holding. The internal bleeding was slower than his. Neurosurgery is on their way, Elena said, her voice soft. She was looking at me, not with pity, but with concern. She did not know the story, but she knew something was broken in me. We had been working together for 5 years. She knew me better than anyone in this building. Good, I said. Get her ready for the CT scan. Head, neck, chest, abdomen, and pelvis. The full trauma package. And then I swallowed. Then she'll go to the ICU to wait for the OR. He goes first. Mateo, Elena started to say. It is the right call, nurse. I cut her off, using her title, not her name. A barrier. He is more unstable. Triage. It is what we do. She held my gaze. Yes, doctor. The next 90 minutes were a choreography from hell. I directed the resuscitation of both simultaneously. I ran from Trauma 1 to Trauma 2. I barked orders, pushed drugs, read the monitors like a pilot in a storm. Dr. Chun, the surgeon, a short, portly man with the patience of a saint and the hands of a god, arrived. He assessed both patients in 30 seconds. Vargas is right, he said, pointing at Daniel. This guy is bleeding out. I'm taking him. Ramirez, are you coming with me? He turned to me. You stabilize the woman, get her CT, and then go have a coffee. Mateo, you look like a ghost. I nodded, unable to speak. We watched them wheel Daniel to the OR. The man who had shattered my life, and I had just saved his skin. I turned back to Isabel. It was time to take her to the computed tomography CT scan. The team moved her to the transport gurney. I will take her, I said, my voice hoarse. Doctor, can we? I said I will take her. I pushed the gurney down the sterile, white hallways. The only sound was the squeak of the wheels and the rhythmic hiss of the ventilator breathing for her. We were alone. For the first time in 2 hours, Dr. Vargas receded and Mateo took over. I stopped in an empty corridor halfway to the CT. I looked at her, even bruised, intubated, unconscious. She was beautiful, the woman I planned to spend my life with. The woman who had lied to me, who had betrayed me in the cruelest possible way. Why? I whispered to the unconscious figure. Why, ISA? What? What did I do wrong? Was it the job? Was it the hours? You could have told me. The ventilator hissed in response. And with him, the new partner. My voice broke, the rage returning, cold and pure. You stayed late at the scenic drive in a silk dress. I wanted to punch the wall. I wanted to disconnect the ventilator. I wanted to kneel down and cry. Instead, I took a deep breath, the antiseptic smell filling my lungs. I grabbed the gurney. Let's get you to your CT scan, I said, my voice void of all emotion. I have to see what else you were hiding from me. We got her into the machine. I went out to the control room next to the radiology technician. Starting scan, he said. The images appeared on the screen, slice by slice. Her brain, her neck, her chest, her abdomen. The tech whistled. "Oh wow. You were right, Doc. Look at that. The spleen. Grade 3. It is actively bleeding." I nodded. "Yes. And wait. What is that?" I pointed to the pelvis. "There, next to the left femur." "That is the femur fracture," the tech said. No. Inside the pelvis. In the uterus." The tech adjusted the contrast. "A small shape. A sac." "Oh," he said in a low voice. "Doctor. Is..." I felt the floor disappear from under my feet. The air left my lungs. "Zoom in," I ordered. The image magnified. It was unmistakable. An early gestational sac. Very early, maybe 4 or 5 weeks. Isabel, my Isabel, was pregnant. The world shrank to the CT monitor. The buzz of the fluorescent lights from part 1 was replaced by the hum of the CT machine, a low, ominous sound. Pregnant. 4, maybe 5 weeks. My mind, trained for rapid analysis, did the math. 5 weeks ago. We were fine, right? We had that dinner after my 48-hour shift. We drank too much wine. We laughed. We made love. Was it mine? The question landed in my stomach like a block of ice. "Dr. Vargas?" "Mateo." The radiology tech's voice pulled me out of the abyss. "Do you want me to call gynecology?" "No," I replied, my voice barely a whisper. "No, not yet. The bleeding from the spleen is the priority. The abdominal surgery." The surgery could. I could not finish the sentence. The surgery to save her life could end the pregnancy. A pregnancy that could be mine. A pregnancy that could be his. Bile rose in my throat. I ran to the nearest trash can and vomited. It was violent, dry heaves, the coffee from hours ago, and the metallic taste of fear and betrayal. The tech pretended not to look. I wiped my mouth with the back of my bloody glove. Dr. Vargas stumbled back, but he was back. "Finish the scan," I ordered, my voice a rasp. "Send her to the ICU. Call orthopedics for that femur fracture and tell Dr. Chun his second patient is ready. Grade 3 spleen. And notify gynecology to evaluate her in the ICU." "Understood, doctor." I pushed the gurney back, this time faster. I could not bear to be alone with her. Not now. Not with this new information. I handed her over to the ICU team, giving a quick, clinical report. 30-year-old female. MVA, GCS of 7, intubated. Grade 3 spleen, left femur fracture, fast positive. And urgent gynecology consult. The ICU nurse gave me a strange look at the last part, but nodded. I walked away. I walked like an automaton through the corridors. It was 6 a.m. The hospital was starting to wake up. The gray dawn light filtered through the windows, pale and sickly. I went into the doctor's lounge and collapsed onto the cracked vinyl sofa. The ring. I reached into my locker and pulled out the small blue velvet box. I opened it. A simple diamond, elegant like her. Or who I thought she was. 5 weeks. If it was Daniel's, it meant this was not new. It was not a one-night mistake. It had been going on for weeks, months, maybe. All those late nights at work, all the missed calls, all the distance I had attributed to stress, to work, to my absence. I was an idiot, a blind, hard-working idiot. Dr. Chin came in, covered in blood. He pulled off his mask and surgical cap, revealing his gray hair, flattened with sweat. "Well," he said, pouring himself a coffee that looked like tar. "The guy, Daniel, a mess. Liver turned to pulp. He lost almost all his blood, but we packed him and saved him. He is in the surgical ICU. Alive by a thread, but alive." "Good," I said, my voice flat. "And the woman?" "Isabel?" Chin asked. My head shot up to him. He could not know. Chin raised an eyebrow. "Mateo, I know your girlfriend. She came to the hospital Christmas dinner with you. I recognized her on the gurney, even with the tube." I broke down. I put my head in my hands. The ring box fell to the floor. "Oh, Mateo." Chin sat down next to me. His tone changed from surgeon to colleague. To friend. "What happened?" They were together, Chun, I whispered. The scenic drive. At 4 a.m. he was driving. Chin said nothing. He just put a heavy hand on my shoulder. I just saved the life of the man who is sleeping with my girlfriend. Yes, Chin said, his voice grave. And you did it right. You did your job. And my voice broke. She is pregnant. Chin's hand tightened. I do not know. I do not know whose it is. I admitted, the shame burning me. Son, Chin said, that is a problem for tomorrow or for next week. Right now, they are both patients, and you are their doctor. Well, you were their doctor. Your shift ended an hour ago, Vargas. I looked up. What? It is 7:05 a.m. The day team is here. I gave them the report on both. Dr. Albright will take over the ICU and trauma. You are off duty. But there are no buts, Mateo. Go home, or go to a bar, or go to the chapel, but do not stay here. You can't. You are not Isabel's doctor. Not legally, not ethically. You are whatever you are to her now, and you cannot make decisions. He was right. The relief was so immense it almost made me cry. It was no longer my responsibility. I had done my part. I had pulled them from the brink of death. Go, Chun. I will handle the woman's surgery. I will take her to the ER now. I will do my best for everything. I understood what he meant, the spleen and the baby. I nodded. I stood up, my legs like lead. Mateo, Chin said, stopping me at the door. He picked up the ring box from the floor and held it out to me. You did the hardest thing a man or a doctor can do. You rose to the occasion. Do not forget it. I took the box and left the doctor's lounge. I did not go home. I could not. What was I going to do there? Look at her things? Her toothbrush next to mine, her robe hanging on the door. I walked. I walked through the hospital as the sun rose, painting the sky a sickly orange and pink. I passed by the surgical ICU. Through the glass, I saw Daniel, or the more swollen and bandaged version that was him. Monitors, tubes, machines. Alive, breathing. I felt nothing. I felt no anger. I felt no satisfaction, just a cold emptiness. He was a patient, a job finished. Then I walked to the other ICU, the trauma one. I stopped outside her room. Room 12. Isabel. They had not taken her to surgery yet. Dr. Albright, the new attending physician, and the on-call obstetrician were at her bedside, looking at a portable ultrasound. I stayed in the shadow of the hallway where they could not see me. I heard snippets. Fetal heartbeat present but weak, the obstetrician was saying. The hypotension is affecting it. The spleen cannot wait, said Albright. She is becoming unstable again. Chin has to open her up now, or we will lose the mother. The surgery, the anesthesia. At this early gestation, the chances are very low, said the obstetrician. Mother first, always, Albright sentenced. They moved, preparing her for transport to the OR. I had the urge to go in, to scream. Scream, save her. Save the baby. Which baby? Mine? His? I leaned against the wall, my heart pounding. If the baby was mine and died on that operating table. If the baby was his and died. What was worse? I realized, with a terrifying clarity, that I did not care. The betrayal had been so absolute, so deep, that it had cauterized everything. The love, the hope, the future I had planned. Everything had turned to ash at 4 a.m. in Trauma 1. I watched them take her away, her eyes closed, unaware of the storm she had unleashed, unaware of the drama unfolding in her own body. I stood there in the hallway for a long time. Finally, the sun was high. It was 9 a.m. My body was a single bruise of exhaustion. I walked to the ICU exit, and Elena, my nurse, was finishing her paperwork. Her shift had also ended. She saw me. Her eyes were full of a sadness that was not professional. Mateo, she said quietly. I heard. Chin told me. About who they were. I nodded, unable to speak. You did everything right, she said, her voice firm, as if trying to convince me or herself. You were a professional. And what does that matter, Elena? My voice hollow. It matters, she said, putting a hand on my arm. It is the only thing that matters at the end of the day. When everything else goes to hell, you have your job. You have who you are. And you are a doctor, an excellent doctor. I looked at her. Thanks, Elena. I left the hospital. The daylight hit me like a physical blow. The city traffic noise was deafening after the controlled silence of the ICU. I sat on a bench outside the emergency entrance, the same one they had come through just 5 hours ago. It seemed like another lifetime. I took out my phone. There were no messages. Of course. I opened our chat. Her last message, "Do not wait up for me. I love you more." Lies. With numb fingers, I opened her contact. I looked at her picture, her smiling on the beach last summer. Block contact. Confirm. Delete contact. Confirm. I did the same with Daniel, whose number I had saved as Daniel, ISA's partner. I deleted the photos, deleted the chat history, a clean, clinical, digital amputation. I reached into my pocket and took out the blue velvet box. I opened it one last time. I looked at the ring shining in the morning sun. I got up and walked to the trash can on the corner and dropped it in. I felt no relief, no sadness, just finality. I turned around and started walking, not knowing where I was going. My job was over. I had saved them. Both of them. I had pulled them from death. I had given them a second chance. Now it was up to them. They would have to wake up. They would have to heal. They would have to look at each other in their hospital beds, knowing what they had done. Isabel would have to face the surgery, and when she woke up, she would have to face the truth, and she would have to face the decision that the universe or the surgery had made about the baby. Daniel would have to live knowing he almost killed the woman he was cheating with and the man who had saved his life. That was their karma. They had each other, and they had the truth. And they would have to live with the scars that I, Dr. Mateo Vargas, had worked so professionally to heal. My karma was different. My karma was to keep walking, to keep saving lives. My karma was this emptiness, this exhaustion, and the certainty that when everything collapsed, I did not. I kept walking away from the hospital as the morning sun ascended in the sky, not caring about anything. 3 days passed, 3 days in which I turned off my phone and locked myself in my apartment, sleeping a heavy, dreamless, almost comatose sleep. Dr. Chun had officially put me on medical leave for post-traumatic stress, a formality to give me space. The silence of the apartment was deafening. Every corner screamed her name. Her silk robe, a different one that I did know, hung behind the bathroom door, her favorite coffee mug next to the sink. On the 4th day, I turned on the phone. It was flooded with messages. Most were from work, routine consultations, but one was from Elena. "Mateo, they are awake. Both stable." I read it. I felt nothing, just an emptiness. I deleted the message. 2 days later, another message from Elena. "Daniel was discharged today. He left in a wheelchair. Isabel will be transferred to the ward tomorrow. Dr. Chin's surgery was a success. The spleen is saved." There was a pause, and then a second message. "But the pregnancy could not be saved. The surgery was too much. I'm sorry, Mateo." I stared at that message for a whole minute. Was I sorry? It was one less complication, one less thread tying me to that disaster. The universe had made the decision I could not. I knew I had to go. I could not leave her things in the apartment forever, and I could not let the hospital be a haunted place. I had to close the circle. A week after the accident, I went back to the Metropolitan, not in my white coat, but in jeans and a leather jacket. I felt like a stranger. I went in through the main entrance, not the emergency one. I went up to the orthopedic surgery floor. Her femur fracture would keep her there a time. I stopped in front of the door of her room, 308. I took a deep breath, not out of nervousness, but to arm myself with courage. I pushed the door open. She was awake. The pale afternoon light illuminated her face. She had a black eye and stitches on her eyebrow, just above her moon-shaped scar. Her leg was elevated in a complicated traction system. When she saw me, her eyes widened like plates and then filled with a panic and a shame so deep they were almost palpable. "Mateo." Her voice was a hoarse croak from the intubation tube she had had. I closed the door behind me. Isabel. My voice sounded calm, as if I were giving a diagnosis. You were there, she whispered, the tears beginning to well up. You saved me. Everyone told me. Dr. Chin said that you. I did my job. I cut her off, my voice without inflection. We had 2 patients in critical condition. We stabilized them. It is what we do. No, Mateo, please. She extended a trembling hand. You do not understand. What you saw. What I saw. I took a step closer, my calm beginning to crack. What did I see exactly, I say? I saw my girlfriend, the one who was supposedly working late on a project, unconscious in my trauma bay at 4 a.m., next to her partner, smelling of a perfume I did not know on you and his cologne, in a silk dress. She broke down crying, a guttural, guilty sob. It is not what you think. It was not like that. Oh no? Then how was it? I crossed my arms. Enlighten me. I was confused, she cried out, her voice breaking. You were never here, Mateo? You live in this hospital. I was lonely, and Daniel. He listened to me, he saw me. There was the confirmation, clearer than any CT scan. How long, Isabel? She looked away, the tears tracing dirty furrows on her bruised face. 2 months. Only. We just started. It has been 2 months. 2 months, I repeated. I savored the word. It was poison. 2 months of lies. 2 months of long nights at the office. 2 months of I love you more. And the baby, she whispered, her hand going instinctively to her flat belly. They told me I lost it. She looked at me, her eyes pleading, looking for an absolution that I could not give her. Mateo, it was yours. The air left my lungs. I stared at her. I saw the woman I had loved, shattered, pathetic, looking for a last connection with me, and I felt pity, but not love. That, I said in a low, firm voice, is something that neither you nor I will have to live with. It is irrelevant. It is not irrelevant, she shouted. It could have been ours, and it could not have been, I retorted, my voice rising for the first time. That doubt, Isabel. That maybe. That is your burden. It is the karma with which you have to live. It is not mine. Not anymore. I turned around. What about us? She pleaded to my back. Mateo, please, do not leave me. It was a mistake. I love you. I stopped at the door. I did not turn around. You do not love me, I say. You love the idea of me, but you betrayed me. We ended on the floor of Trauma Bay 1, when I had to cut your dress, when I put a tube in your throat and pretended you were a stranger to save your life. I opened the door. And I said in a low voice, Daniel is at home. He will wait for you. You saved each other, in a certain way, and I saved you both. Now you have to live with that. You have to live with the fact that your second chance was a gift from the man you stabbed in the back. I went out into the hallway and closed the door, cutting off the sound of her sobs. I walked down the hallway. My heart was not broken. It was excised, clean, like a successful surgery. I saw in the distance, in the elevator waiting area, a man with a neck brace and a face full of bruises, probably waiting to visit her. Daniel. Our eyes met for a fraction of a second. He recognized the doctor who had drilled his tibia. He looked away first with a mixture of anger and shame. I did not stop. I went down to the emergency room. My sanctuary, my hell. Elena was at the nurse's station. She saw me and gave me a sad half-smile. Dr. Vargas, she said quietly. Welcome back. Thanks, Elena, I said. I'm glad to be back. I put on my white coat. It felt like armor. 6 months later, the buzz of the fluorescent lights was the same. The chaos was the same. The smell of burnt coffee and antiseptic was the same. Dr. Vargas, trauma 2, male, 40 years old, fall from a scaffold. Understood. I ran towards the bay, the adrenaline singing in my veins. It had been a long day, but a good one. We had saved 3 people who should not have survived. At the end of my shift, Elena passed me a coffee. Hey, she said as if nothing. Did you see who is in the orthopedic waiting room? I tensed for a second. Do not tell me Mr. Anderson swallowed his keys again. Elena laughed. No, it is her. Isabel and the guy, Daniel, are sitting there, arguing in whispers. I guess for the leg checkup. I looked towards the emergency room door, towards the main hallway. Ah, was all I said. They seem miserable, Elena added with a touch of satisfaction. I guess that is what happens, I said, taking a sip of coffee. You save their lives, but you cannot save them from themselves. I grabbed my jacket. Well, my shift is over. Any plans? Elena asked. Yes, I said, smiling. A genuine smile that reached my eyes. I have a date with a cardiologist I met at last week's conference, and for the first time in years, I think I'm going to be on time. I walked out through the automatic doors, leaving behind the buzz, the chaos, and the ghosts. The night air was cool. I walked past the same bench where I had sat that hellish morning. I walked past it, without looking back, towards the illuminated street.